Why us? It's a bit of a narcissistic question, I'm not gonna lie, but I feel like this is a very big question a lot of people get stuck on and they really don't know how to approach it the right way. Just because it might come across as an extremely intimidating task because there are so many colleges that ask about this question. From Yale to Wellesley to USC to NYU, every single college wants to know, why do you want to go there? And this episode is going to be all about answering the question. So, first things first. You have to understand why a college is asking its particular prompt. What is a college trying to understand from you when they say why us? And for this particular question, it's three things. Number one, in my opinion, it's a very clear indicator of demonstrated interest. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, by the level of detail you have in your Why Us essay, it's very clearly visible which applicant has done their research about your university and which applicant has just gone on the generic things. Like if you're talking about NYU, for example, you talk about, oh, it's in New York City. They know that every other university in New York City also has the same selling points. Like Columbia has the exact same thing. Another thing people will talk about is the mascot or a few rituals that are extremely popular. Those things are not opportunities that the university offers. They're just, those typical brochure items, and you want to stay away from those. Number two, it talks about what the college can do for you. And this is what the core of the essay is going to be about. What are the specific research opportunities, classes, clubs and student organizations, and even professors that you're really interested in interacting with and making the most out of? And number three, and this is the point I think a lot of people miss, it's about showing why you're also a good fit for the college. So while the second point spoke about why a college is a good fit for you, this is about why you're a good fit for them. What values do you bring? What experiences do you bring? Why should you, out of all people in the world, be gaining access to those specific opportunities at the college? And that's why you have to try and intersect these two fitments. Your fitment for them and their fitment for you. The first practical tip I have for you when it comes to the Why Us essay is that you should have a template. Now understand that a template doesn't mean that you use the exact same essay for every school, but you should have something that will have fill in the blanks that will let you transfer the essay from one school to another. Why do I say that? The Why Us essay is definitely a staple essay in the college application process. Almost every single school wants to know why you want to attend their college, and it's going to be extremely tedious and draining for you to repeatedly go over and over and over the reasons why you're a good fit for them, why they're a good fit for you, and it's much easier to just have a template. Now, what does the template look like? And I'm going to be showing you the one I used for different colleges. But before that, what are the three elements that make a good Why Us essay? In my opinion, the first is the idea of icing. And we've spoken about this before in the storytelling prompts. And this is going to show you the power of having those storytelling essentials. You want to make sure that your Why Us essay stands out in its overall framework and structure. And it's this framework and structure that's going to get transferred from one university to another university to another university. Now, let me give you a few examples of what this framework looks like. Your icing could be a day in the life episode where you actually act as if you've already gotten into that university and you're going from class to class, professor to professor, resource to resource, and you're literally showing the admissions officer through your eyes what are the resources you would be using throughout your day in the life at that particular college. It gives a much more captivating insight into what you'd actually do than just being like, if I were to get admission to your university, I'd be doing this. Why do you have to say, if I were going to come there, I'd do this? Show them what you're going to be doing. And what's even more important is that this day in the life idea can be transferred from university to university. You can talk about a day in the life at Columbia, a day in the life at Yale, a day in the life of USC. These are all things that are going to help you templatize your entire answer. Another thing you could talk about is an extracurricular activity that's very fundamental to you. This extracurricular activity can act as the framework that engulfs every single thing you're speaking about. For example, for me, I use the idea of intersections and combined both the day in the life with an extracurricular activity that I really liked. I spoke about filmmaking, and I spoke about how I would be vlogging a day in the life at my campus. And it might seem a little far-fetched, but take a look at my template. It does start to come together when you really put a little effort to take a creative outlook on the entire prompt, which usually tends to have really dry essays. So let's jump into my Why Us essay template that intersects both a day in the life as well as the extracurricular activity. So this is my entire template for the why us essay. And you're going to notice that there are a lot of fill in the blanks because that's what helps you transfer it from one university to another university. And we're going to be talking about how this icing really helps me convey what I want from a university and what the university can do for me in an engaging and captivating way. So immediately, I try to put the reader right in the middle of my day in the life by saying, welcome to vlog 214. It's 7:54 a.m. and I'm just in time for my first class with Professor Dash. Now, what do I mean over here? If I go to a university and I'm like, okay, now I have to start researching their opportunities, I will start researching for professors in the field that I'm interested in. So that professor's name is going to come and fill this blank over here. So you can see this entire essay template sort of giving a way for me to showcase all of the things that this university can offer for me in a very specific way. So whenever any college is reading this essay, they're not going to feel like I've just recycled it and it's not specific to them. Every portion that you're going to make specific has got a fill in the blank portion which you can fill out. Now, let's go to the next part, which is actually how do you research and fill in some of these spaces that I've left. The entire process of research for any college is supposed to be done in a very systematic way. Broadly discussed, there are 4 key things you're going to be talking about when you're researching for a particular university. You want to be naming particular professors and classes. This is the inside the classroom experience. You also want to be talking about some research they've done that's extremely interesting to you and something that would give you an insight into a field you're interested in. The third thing you want to be talking about are a few extracurricular opportunities that the university offers to you. And the fourth thing that I like to talk about is a lab or any research center that really lets me go past this theoretical approach to learning and have a much more application-based approach by actually researching the things in a lab that I'm really interested about. So let's see how I try to fill in all of these details for one particular university, which is the University of Southern California. Let's get into it. The first thing I did was search up professors in the department that I was interested in. And for me, that was social psychology. So I'm going to search University of California. Actually, I'm just going to say USC. USC Social Psychology Department, or faculty rather. And I'm going to go into the social psychology faculty and sort of understand who are the professors they have over here. And I'm doing this all, in hindsight, so I know which professor I picked, but what I'm looking for are a few keywords that really interest me. So when I was applying, I was really interested in this process of habit formation. So immediately when I reach this page, I usually just end up searching habit, and I found a professor whose name is Wendy Wood. Now, I can take this and immediately drop it down into my answer. So now, when I go to the Why Us template, it's 7:54 a.m. and I'm just in time for my first class with Professor Wendy Wood. Now, explaining the dash. This is where we're going to talk about a particular concept that Wendy Wood is interested in. So to do that, we're going to go to Wendy Wood's page. So I'm going to search up Wendy Wood, USC, and I'm just going to search that up and see what I get. And you're going to notice that a lot of these things in the screen recording are already popping up because I have researched this in the past, but let's check her page out. Over here, if you look, you can see some of the media links she has. And this really goes to a few YouTube videos and research and talks that she's done that really gives an insight into who she is as a person, what are the things she's interested in, and gives me the opportunity to really try and pick up a few quotes she says and try and fill them up. So, how does this look like in the end? When I go down, this is the actual essay I used, the first one. And I'm just in time for my first class with Professor Wendy Wood. Trade in bad habits for better ones. Now, because I couldn't find an actual class she taught, I tried to make my best guess. And if you look over here, trade in bad habits for better ones is the topic for one of the podcasts she's done. So you can automatically make the connection and say that, oh, this is something that she definitely probably teach at USC Dornsife, which is the College of Letters and Sciences. Now, Wendy Wood is also professor at USC Marshall, which is their business school. But I don't want to focus on that because I'm not applying to the business school in this instance. Now, let's go deeper. The next thing I want to understand is what she's talking about. So I've said, explaining the process of habit formation, which is a research area she has, she asks, how do sources of friction in our environment influence our long-term belief systems? Now, where did I really find that idea and that concept? It's in her media. I went into her media and I really tried to open up every single thing she has. So I will go to YouTube, for example, and I'll search Wendy Wood USC habit formation. And if you see over here, I've immediately opened a few links and I can literally remember the exact link I picked for a quote like this. I went to one of the first two videos and opened it up and started watching it. And this is her, just giving a talk about behavior change for good. And I tried to capture some of the key ideas she wrote and tried to give a quote. Now, so one of the limitations of a day in the life essay, obviously, is that I really don't know what she can exactly say and I can't predict what she said in this class that I've tried to create. But by looking at some of the ideas she talks about, I can have a reasonable guess. And even the podcast episode is a proper 27-minute episode. So I really tried to research Wendy Wood and everything that she valued and studied as a professor at USC so that I could make sure that what I'm talking about is a really accurate depiction of who she is. Now, let's start going to the other parts of this essay. The next thing that I try to do is tie in this entire idea to some of the research she's done. So, what's the next step? I'm going to search up Professor Wendy Wood, Research, USC, and immediately a page I remember going through is ResearchGate. And I try to go through a lot of the publications she's had, which is the articles and papers she's worked on in the past. And one that particularly stood out to me was this idea of racism when it comes to religion. And I still remember the quote that I found. It was called "Why Don't We Practice What We Preach" by Wendy Wood. And it immediately gave me a PDF. So I'm just going to download the full text PDF. And I went into a research paper she literally wrote and talked about how I connected some of the ideas she was explaining in her class, as you can see over here. I say, she asks, how do sources of friction in our environment influence our long-term belief systems? And then I say, I instantly relate this insight to the deconstruction of prejudice in her paper. Why don't we practice what we preach? Now, if you were my admissions officer, you would have also have noticed that a lot of my work in the past has to do with deconstructing prejudice, because throughout my high school career, I've had multiple experiences of working with differently abled adults and trying to give them employment opportunities. So prejudice when it came to individuals from marginalized communities was something I often saw. This entire essay is supposed to link the things that you've experienced in the past and the things that the college offers. So I did put a paragraph over here. Pursuing a multidisciplinary approach, I have mindfully passed through courses on judgment, social cognition, and behavioral economics. So if you look at my template, I have the exact same line, except I just put a blank where the courses were supposed to go. And I went through USC's courses and I picked the ones that were the most interesting to me. And in my template, I've spoken about this human-centric perspective inspires my work on workforce multipliers, cost-effective and scalable interventions to mainstream minorities in organizations. So I'm talking about some of the research I've done in high school and trying to link it to the work that Wendy Wood has done. Now, let's go on to the next part, which is what are you really interested in about USC in particular outside of the classroom?
Yo, sorry mom, looking for something.
So in my template, I say, we're finally here, the Dash Lab. Now this gives me the opportunity to try and find a few labs that USC offers in a field I'm interested in. And learning and habit formation was definitely a theme that was growing because I wanted to understand how do people really learn in different contexts? How do we pick up some of the things that are now innate to us? And that's why I try to put in those keywords into the search bar. So for example, I say social learning lab at USC. It's automatically filled because I just searched this right now. But I found a very interesting lab called the Hacker Lab, which is basically named after the director. But the Social Learning and Choice Lab investigates how we learn and make decisions in social interactions across behavior, the mind, and brain. And this was really interesting to me because I could tie it in to a lot of the experiences I've had. How do people discriminate against one another? How do biases develop? A lot of these concepts would have been covered in a lab like this. And that's why I chose to pick it for my Why Us template. I closed off the essay again with just a template that I created. Hopefully this has given you a glimpse into my life at USC, a pursuit that explores the intricacies of the human mind and in turn helps me understand myself better. So if I had to have one statement or one sentence that really tries to capture the essence of the essay, it's this. So in a nutshell, that's how you take on the template approach and do a lot of detailed research to make sure you're delivering a Why Us essay that is not dry, it's not, recycled, and it's definitely showing that you really want to go to this school for a particular reason and theme. So that's my entire take on the Why Us essay. I'll see you in the next episode.